In my fourth and fifth novel, I went deep down the rabbit hole doing some research, and the other ones, I had the research that I did. I was more wasn't in the realm of the things that you research. It was more like, okay, I'm going to go to Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia and I'm going
Mm,
to talk to some people. I'm going to see what the terrain is like and what are the smells like and what is the temperature this time of year and that sort of thing. Or I'm going to go to Mozambique and I'm going to talk to the some trackers and I'm going to find out about Chinese mining operations, legal and illegal, and the politics. And I'm also going to take pictures of the rocks and the grasses and then the dirt, and I'm going to feel the dirt and I'm going to smell it, and I'm going to share meals, and all that's going to weave into the fabric of my novel. But in the fourth one, I went deep down the rabbit hole as far as bioweapons or biodefense
mm.
research, and I had no touch point with that in the military. And then my fifth one, then I went deep down the rabbit hole as far as quantum computing and artificial intelligence goes. And I kind of felt in those ones like a reporter, like a journalist, because I'm trying to interview as many people as I can. And I wanted to ask you about this because my experience was that people that worked in those two realms in particular, and I had no touch points in the military with either of these things. This is all post military. And I'm talking to a bunch of different people, and let's take biodefense research. And I'm talking to them, and they give a little crumb, but they're very secretive about everything else. Well, then I go and talk to somebody else. They also give a tiny little crumb. But it's different than the crumb the other person left. So I talk to all of these people, and I'm also basing my questions off a foundation of research. So I've read the journals and books and whatever else I possibly could to prepare myself for these interviews. But after I started talking to these people, I can take all these crumbs and put them together like a puzzle and connect dots and really think something through. And I was curious if that's how you approach some of the topics in these, because you're delving into some areas that either the material is newly declassified after all these years, and there's Freedom of Information Act requests, and you're piecing together these puzzles from people who have long since passed away, or maybe you're talking to their children, and you're putting together these puzzles. And is that how you look at it? Is that your experience?
Absolutely. I mean, I find with sources like you were talking about the crumbs, where someone is very measured with what they
Mm,
tell you or sparing, and that is true. I think one of the keys is finding sources who are very generous with their time and who are willing. And I find those for all my books. I have to, like, until I find that one or two or three people, I can't really commit to reporting that book, because you need someone who is willing to do that. Like Billy Waugh, for example, in
yeah,
Surprise, Kill,
yeah.
Vanish. I mean,
I have
we
his
just
book.
spent so long together,
I have
and
his book
we,
right here, and your book
yeah,
right there.
yeah,
So, yeah,
yeah.
amazing.
And like we traveled, we would travel together, and and things would come to him, and things would, unearth in terms of memory. Um, and you begin to get on the edge of the story. And then that process becomes supported, like you said, by, oh, you should talk to this guy and this guy. And I just, it's, all these books later, the experience is interestingly similar in that regard, that you find people who are comfortable. And I always think it's like comfortable with themselves. And then you find people. I used to think that people were being withholding from me, and now I just realize it just doesn't matter. You know what I mean? If that person isn't going to be a great talker, that's okay. And I'm going to move on. And people often say to me, how do you get everyone to talk to you? Well, I don't get everyone. I just am relentless about, asking 100 people for
Right.
an interview. And if five of them say yes, it's huge.
Yeah.
And then you're developing, and the other thing I love is that all these years later, so many of these people I can go back to and ask their assistance or advice, or do they know anyone? And that's huge, I think. I mean,
Mm,
I'm not a what I would call a gotcha journalist, and a lot of people are. But if you also notice, I never write about politics. I write about POTUS,
mm,
the office of the president.
mm,
I don't really care. I can't care much about the the current feuds over this and that, because to me, I just have studied history long enough to realize they're always there. This guy hates that president and that guy. So just ignore it, because what I'm after is the long arc of national security, the long arc of covert action,
Yeah.
the long arc of weapons development. Because if we look to the past, we can see where I think we can see a little bit of what's happening now. And then we can begin to make educated or thoughtful, questions about the future and how we want to deal with that for ourselves and our children.